Welcome again to another edition of Louisiana Catalyst podcast show, The Link. I'm one of your co-hosts, Mr. Duran Talley, Vice President here at Louisiana Catalyst, always with our president, my brother, my good friend, Mr. Quentin Durr.
Absolutely. How's everybody doing?
Doing great. And we're here with just one of the best community resources, community leaders that you will find, Dr. Brice Jones, who wears many hats, and we want to welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Great to talk with you guys.
Yes, certainly. Dr. Jones, I've known you since, I guess, 2015. I think you made your way to ULM around the time that I made my way back to ULM, and you worked, I think, in the PR department during that time, marketing communications department at the university. Then you've gone on to be a grant director at other campuses and other institutions. You've, touched in workforce. You've touched in academia. Your entrepreneurship. Just tell us a little bit about, your experience here over the last 7 years of being here in Northeast Louisiana and kind of how you've seen the landscape evolve.
Yeah, happy to do that. So we moved here, my wife and I, in 2015, and I come out of academics. I was trained as an academic and went all the way through BA, MA, PhD, and was trained to be a historian. And so that's that's my credentials. And so life had other plans. This was a stopping place for me and my family. And it just turns out that our tree grew roots. And so we're here permanently. But we did move here in 2015. And my wife, Megan, and I had two children, both of which were born in Canada, two girls. And then we had a son in 2016. So he was born here at St. Francis. And started in the workforce at ULM and had a few jobs there. Total, I've spent, since we've been here, I've spent about 5 years at the university. And I took two brief stints. One was at St. Frederick High School as the director of their International Baccalaureate program, which is an elite academic curriculum. And then just prior to that, I was the director of grants development at Louisiana Delta Community College, where I worked with Dennis Epps, who is a tremendous asset to this community.
Absolutely.
He's a workforce genius. And so I learned a lot from Dennis, and he still serves as a mentor today. But in my current capacity, I'm the executive director of marketing and communications at the university. And so with that, I supervise 8 people. We do PR. We are the mouthpiece of the university in terms of communication, institutional communication, marketing. We market programs, we market events, any kind of announcements, pressers, ribbon cuttings, and that sort of thing. And so it's a creative department. I get to take part in that every day with a wonderful group of like-minded individuals who love to be creative and create things and generate ideas. And so we do that every day. And so that's my current job. I've worn a lot of hats. I've learned a lot of things. As my good friend at Louisiana Delta Community College, Charles Stevenson, told me one time, skills pay the bills.
Right.
And it's about really upskilling yourself and learning skills along the way. I was trained as an academic. I'm not doing that right now. That's okay, but I'm learning stuff as I go, and that's proven to be extremely valuable as a person, as an individual, but someone in the workforce. So
right. Yeah. Now Charles nailed it, man, and I know Charles as well from my time at Louisiana Delta Community College. We've done some things outside in the community as well. Skills pay the bills, man. That's one of the things that we at Catalyst we definitely. I hadn't heard that. Put it in like that, but that's what we believe too. That's part of our philosophy as well. Let's talk about, from, your experience in academia to what you're doing now, how you've been able to balance, and then kind of what you think higher education should be doing to further equip our students in terms of that skills, bills, but also education, theory, research that the classroom curriculum gives.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. Yeah. It's so I love research. As I went all the way through the ranks, I've published and I enjoy researching. And so I really understand the value of research and how it can contribute to society. There is a lot of research that is questionable, coming out of different sectors in higher education. But I think, from the philosophy of education, from this standpoint, all research should benefit society. I mean, that's what higher education is about. And so that's, from the research side. I think one of the things that we do at the university that is, it's part of our mission slogan. We change lives to create a better world. Mm-hmm. And I think so often we think at the micro level, and we have to understand that we're influencing students day in and day out, not just in the classroom, on the field, at the cafeteria, at Starbucks, to go on to be better individuals, better humans, to live in a democratic society, to be responsible citizens, to make great decisions, and to participate in our ecosystem, in our workforce. And so that's a huge responsibility.
Right. No pressure.
No pressure. That's not one faculty's responsibility. That's all of us. And so in terms of higher education, we've got a serious role. And I think, higher education has often been seen as a city up on the hill, living in a silo, disconnected from community, disconnected from the city in which it's embedded. That's a problem.
Right.
And so one of the things that we really value are the relationships that we've built, that we've sustained, and that we continue to foster. And I'll give you a great example. Our last spring edition of our magazine was focused on community partnerships. And so it's a time for the university to say, hey, look, we're here because of y'all.
Right.
And this is a mutual beneficial relationship with the community. And so that's what we strive to do. It's student oriented, but also we have a ULM family. I mean, our faculty matter. We have amazing faculty that do great things day in and day out. And so from student to staff to faculty to maintenance workers, we have a system in which we all operate together as a family to change each other's lives together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be a big change over the last year or two, where now educational institutions are now working with the workforce and the businesses in the community to understand what the need is.
Yeah.
So now there's a real partnership where it definitely wasn't that way, before. And so it's refreshing, because now when I'm going to chamber summits and meetings, you have Ron Berry there. Yeah. You had educational leaders that are listening to the business community to understand, so that they can implement into their curriculum what's needed.
Yeah.
And that's refreshing.
Yeah.
To know that as a business owner, okay, our educational system gets it. They're now training people for my growth, right? As a company owner, now I can have the workforce needed to capitalize on the opportunities that I have, because without people, I can't grow.
That's right. And I'll tell you, I sat on the cabinet at Louisiana Delta Community College, and in one cabinet meeting, Dennis Epps passed around an article from, I think it was the Chronicle of Higher Ed, in which 10 years ago, workforce development wasn't really in the vocabulary of four-year institutions. But the two-year institutions have forced the four-year institutions to begin to think that way. And so I learned that very early on at Delta, and I'm glad that was truly an asset in terms of that mental space, that business and industry, and that's the way the two-year system works, if they have a need, they go to these two-year institutions and they can stand up a program in response to those immediate needs. That can be short-term training, forklifts, CDL license, for truck driving, industrial maintenance, and their position, especially Delta, to address the manufacturing needs, which is a huge shortage here, and we have an opportunity for growth in manufacturing. But if you transfer that to the four-year model, there's a ton of opportunity.
Yes.
Right? And so I think if you take that model and you show that a four-year institution has just as much value in being able to create and stand up programs of value that address workforce needs, shortages. Look, internships. People talk about this all the time. We can provide internships. We just need to know what the needs are in the community. Right. Once those relationships are built, internships can lead to part-time jobs.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Part-time jobs can lead to full-time jobs.
Yes.
And full-time jobs, as you know, can stimulate the economy locally. But so we have a responsibility as a four-year institution, as I see it, to take that, to grow it, to give students opportunities in the internship landscape and beyond. But it takes a lot of conversation among community leaders. I think we've got that right now. Mayor Ellis is super excited to be at the helm, and you can see his excitement, his leadership. And same on the other side of the river with Mayor Albritton. And so we've got a lot of energy, a lot of movement. I'm excited to be part of it. And so one of you asked about the changes, the energy. Right. That's one of the things that's changed, man. And with Roy Heatherly at the chamber and Chris on the other side, just a lot of really great leaders. Yeah. And so at the institution, at ULM, we're part of that. And we're happy to be part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we feel the same, that the energy was not there pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And COVID, I don't know, just changed. Leadership was obviously, as leadership changed, now you just get this energy. And then we've seen it, now being a part of it is just such a refreshing and rewarding experience, because now it's like, okay, we now not only can play our part we wanted to, but you have the full support.
Sure.
And so now you have a Roy or a Chris from the chamber that's referring people to us and vice versa, and then working with, and the fact that we're now having conversations.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That shows you what change does. So we're excited about where things are going too.
Yeah. Innovation. I mean, I read something recently, a quote that said, ideas are magical but fragile seeds that require protecting. And to think that we can be in this room right now organically just talking, we're generating ideas.
That's right.
And we're having a conversation. And so I think the more that we do that and reach across the aisle, the more ideas that we generate and be innovative and creative, the more things we produce. And so that's the challenge we all have as leaders, is to step up, make our community better.
Right, right. So there's one thing that you touched on with your background that's we get a lot of conversations about is grant writing and grants. So there's this stigma or there's this idea that there are free grants out there for everyone just to go get to start a business. Not necessarily for you to touch on that, but can you touch on what applying for a grant really entails and the details so that people understand that it's not I just fog a mirror and I get money, but it's more you have to have a plan, you have to have an idea, a planned out idea, you have to have some type of usually a match or all these things. Can you just touch a little bit on that to help educate people that a grant is work?
A grant is a lot of work, and a lot of people think that writing a grant and getting a grant means that's the end of it. The hard part actually comes when you get a lot of times when you get the money, you have to stay in compliance with the grantor and their wishes, and so especially on the federal level, there's a good bit of compliance in terms of how you manage those funds and spend your money as you said you would spend it, and so. Yeah, I mean, grants are available in several different categories. One, they're foundations. They're local foundations that provide grants. I'll give you a great example. Alice Profit is a local CEO of the Living Well Foundation, and ULM has been the recipient of several awards from the Living Well Foundation. And they support healthcare initiatives. But that's a foundation. There's state grants. When I worked at Delta, we would get appropriations that came from the feds to the state, and the state would then allocate it out to members of the LCTCS, the community college system. And then there are the big federal grants, and those are the hard ones that are very tedious to work with. Your USDA's, your Delta Regional Authority, the big grants, EDA. And so those often require matches, and you have to work with your community and your partners to, get a 10% match, a 15% match to show, there's some skin in the game,
right? Or
your own match, an institutional match. And so there's a lot that goes into grants. It's a full proposal. You've got executive summaries, logic models, and all these. It's kind of like a mathematical, formula. But once you get it, it is a formula, and you can follow it. And oftentimes you get really good guidelines about how to write them. Mm-hmm. And it takes a good bit of creativity and support. And if you have the right people who are good at project management and developing concepts that would support the project, that helps and goes a long way. You need support, especially on the budget side.
Right.
It's got to be financially responsible in terms of what the grantor can offer and how you're going to spend their money. But grants are a great resource for obviously for researchers at our institution. We get a lot of federal, state, local, research dollars, and also dollars that go into service. And so that's another thing that people don't realize, that at the institution, people think research and funding, but we get a lot of money that goes into service provision. And so, the dental hygiene mobile unit, for example, that goes into local schools, provides free dental health to schools. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you can get on the service providing front in terms of grant funding that's helpful. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we learned from Catalyst, a couple of grants that we've applied for was it wasn't money that we could use to pay the light bill.
Yeah.
It had to be very specialized and specific on how those funds were used and how were we going to sustain it after the injection. Yeah. It wasn't, this is only going to work could we get the grant. We really almost had to have a project and have all the underlying support mechanisms in place, and the grant would just elevate or make the project go quicker or something of that nature, So it's been a learning experience for us because, most education online, which can be dangerous, is apply for a grant. You can start a business with a grant. It doesn't work that way.
Well, sustainability plans should be part of most any grant proposal. No funder, very few are willing to invest in something that's going nowhere.
Right.
So they want to see how you're going to be sustained and see what your plan is for sustainability. And so that's usually a component of any grant proposal. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I always tell people interested in grants is, don't go create ongoing bills with one-time monies.
That's right.
That's right. If I can get this grant, then I'm going to go and do all this. And I said, wait a minute now, won't that cost you beyond the grant? Yeah. What if you don't get renewed for a second year? Oh, no, we'll be fine. What's the plan, though?
That's right.
And then you mess around, you put yourself in debt and you closing doors because you've taken what was a one-time pop. We saw it a lot even in personal lives with these COVID monies, these CARES Act monies that came out, these stimulus checks. So a lot of people, going out, I'm going to go buy a car. Why would you do that? If you couldn't afford a car pre the stimulus, why would you go buy a car just because you got a stimulus? Right. That's a one-time pop, and so understanding those pieces around any business funding, any personal funding, or those concepts and principles are so important in our community.
No doubt.
So I know you've got a lot to do today, but I did want to throw this in before we wrap up, and really, it's important for us to know not only education but experience. So, what has been in the educational realm, but also you also having some entrepreneurial experience? What has that done for you, seeing both sides of the fence and being able to communicate that to students?
Well, I can tell you very specific. So it's interesting. So one of the things that helped get me through school as a graduate student with being freshly married, having bills, was I picked up a camera and I photographed through graduate school. And when we lived in Montreal, I worked for the largest wedding photography company in the city, DeBell Photography. And so I got the opportunity to work with the owner on several shoots and really just learned to cut my teeth there professionally, but did that on the side to supplement my income. And that was out of necessity.
Right.
And already had an interest in photography, but I said, let's take this to the next level and make it work. And so I am a gear nerd, so I love cameras. I love audio. I mean, the stuff we're doing here, this is my stuff. And so I was able to take those skills specifically and use them at ULM in the Office of Marketing and Communications because we have a videographer, we have a photographer, So we have social media. I've developed websites for churches and things of that nature on the side. So all those technical skills have helped me tremendously in my current role because I get the language. I understand the processes. I understand the technology and the gear. And so to your point, I mean, it took me stepping outside of what I was doing to be a little bit entrepreneurial. That's cool. So I have that spirit, inside of me to do that. And so that has helped me tremendously in my current role full time. I also do woodworking on the side. Love to fish and hunt, do all kinds of stuff. The woodworking has been interesting. That's been more of a recent thing, but started with some garden boxes and then started building some tables, and that's fun.
I was going to say we kind of need a conference table for our Ruston location, so I may have to get with you on what that would look like.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. No, awesome. Certainly, man. Well, man, very well rounded as we introduced you, man. Wear many hats, but man, definitely an honor to know you. And the relationship that you and I have developed. And
thank you.
Obviously, ULM being a driver of this new energy that you talked about here, not just in the parish, but in this region. President Barry's doing a phenomenal job having folks like you by the side and making other blockbusting announcements here recently. And so we're certainly excited about where ULM is headed and how it's developing our upcoming workforce.
Yeah, we are too. And, I'll say this last thing and before we go, and, we've had a wonderful opportunity to develop a strategic plan from the ground up. And strategic plans at institutions often are shelf documents. They sit there. And this is one of those plans that Seth Hall, who's been recently named the interim athletic director as of yesterday, he was instrumental in developing that plan with community members, lots of on-campus stakeholders and beyond. And so as we align ourselves with that plan, we hope to see a lot of change affected on campus, but also out in the community. And so ULM is primed right now to do a lot of amazing things with this community. And so, again, going back to the silo metaphor, that's not us. Right. That's not us. We are in the business of changing people's lives, and that means getting to know who we are training, getting to know our faculty, getting to know the people who visit us at athletic events. And so I cannot tell y'all, in terms of the change and the energy and the vibrance that's on campus, never have I seen this since we've lived here in 2015. So anybody who's listening, who wants to be part of something great, we have obviously employment opportunities that pop up every now and then. We're always looking for talent. And if you're not job seeking, come out and see us. We have museums. We have VAP events for music and arts, and obviously athletic events. And so we welcome the community to be part of what we're doing as we change lives every single day.
I got to come check out the hub, man. I passed by the other day. You got the big screen sitting outside. It was playing ESPN. I was like, I'm going to just pull up and watch a game sitting out here.
You should do it. 2:30. We have a meeting today, 2:30. In fact, two of my team members said, let's go do it at the hub. Drink some coffee. But I was there yesterday. It's booming. It's awesome.
Yes, it's awesome. All right, Dr. Brice Jones, we thank you as always, man.
Thank you.
Anything we can do to link you with another resource or link the university somewhere, certainly, man, we'd be glad to do that.
Thank you, Bob.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, man.
Awesome. This has been another episode of The Link.